Welcome back. It's yours truly, Trashman MMA, here to go over some huge fight news that was just announced a few hours ago. Rob Font versus Raul Rosas Jr. takes place this September 13th at NOCHE UFC on the main card. Number 9 ranked Rob Font taking on unranked Raul Rosas Jr., who's on, I believe, a 3 to 4 fight win streak. Looking very impressive so far in his career, besides a one slight hiccup that he had against, I believe it was Christian Rodriguez was his name. Extremely fun fight that we have here. If you guys don't know, I am a D1 Rob Font Glazer, live in the flesh. There's nobody who likes this guy more than I do, and I can promise you that. Nobody. Yeah, he's on a. Okay. Rob Font, I believe he's 2-2 in his last four. He dropped two to let me check who was his last two losses. Davison Figueiredo versus Corey Sandhagen, both who kind of resorted to grappling as a forefront of their game plan. Corey Sandhagen especially, I believe, but that was kind of a misstep from him. It was a short notice step up replacement from Rob Font. He took it on short notice, and then in the fight, Corey Sandhagen absolutely tore one of his maybe it was his triceps. I believe he tore one of his triceps. He had to resort to grappling, but since those two losses, Rob Font has come back, got an impressive win over Kyler Phillips and a split decision win over Gene Matsumoto, who I do believe Rob Font won that fight. It was a split decision. I know a lot of people go back and forth between who won. I think Gene Matsumoto, all he really did was he kind of just wet blanketed Rob Font for that first round. And I think Rob Font, with all the submission attempts from the bottom and whatnot, he got that fight. But let's get back onto this fight. An exciting fight. It's just an absolutely banger of a fight, in my opinion. I do think, though, they are pushing. They are going to kill Raul Rosas Jr. Rob Font is going to put belt to ass against Raul Rosas Jr. That I truly believe that this push forward is way too high of a step. I believe with the Raul Rosas Jr., you have to take the Chase Hooper type of approach. You can't jump him into the top 10 of the division. I truly believe, well, I do believe that Raul Rosas Jr. loses to most of the 15th. I believe he loses to all the 15th to 10 ranked people. I think Vinicius Oliveira puts belt to ass on Raul Rosas Jr. Montel Jackson, I think he fucks him up. Henry. I'm not gonna say Henry Cejudo really fucks him up. I think yes, Henry Cejudo does fuck him up, but Henry Cejudo is an extremely high level grappler, very good. He's just lower ranked, but Ayman Zahabi, I think he's fucking him up. Marcus McGee, I think he's fucking up Raul Rosas. I think all of these guys, I think this is literally a shark pool of contenders, and they just jumped Raul Rosas Jr. from the shark tank to what they think is going to be the fucking kiddie pool. I believe they think, okay, Rob Font, he's 38. He's the oldest active bantamweight fighter on the roster. He's been on the game for a long time. He's a 50-50 fighter in his recent fights. But, dude, he took that fight against Gene Matsumoto on relatively short notice. I believe it was maybe 2-3 weeks notice that he took it on. Maybe not that short, but I don't know. I remember it being short notice. And for him to do so well in the grappling exchanges against Gene Matsumoto, like I said, throwing up countless submissions, guillotines, kimuras, just all this Darce chokes. And as we've seen Raul Rosas Jr. in his most previous fight against Vince Morales, he had some trouble with those Darce chokes. He got caught in two of them in the third round, I believe, where he was slowing down and fatiguing quite a bit. I just realized I got the Mexican version of this theme. Combate de peso gallo. The fuck does that mean? I'm just realizing that just now. But Rob Font was doing great in some grappling exchanges. He was held down, and I just think this push from the UFC. I remember this fight being kind of rumored quite some time ago, but it never really going through. And I really didn't think they were going to make this fight. I really didn't think that they were going to make this fight because I just see this as a chucking Raul Rosas to the wolves. I really do see that. I mean, dude, Henry Cejudo would have been an easier matchup for Raul Rosas Jr. in my opinion. Maybe not, but surely there were some unranked guys there who we could give to Raul Rosas before a Rob Font. His most recent wins are Ariel, fucking some fucking Chinese guy, and then Vince Morales, who isn't the fucking he's shit. He's shit. What am I saying? Not the best. He's 3-8 in the UFC. He's shit. And now we're giving him top 10 contender Rob Font. So some of the best striking in the division. Okay, grappling, but he can hold his own against fighters like Davis and Figueiredo, who might I add, Davis and Figueiredo, the version of Davis and Figueiredo that Rob Font fought was probably the best version of Davis and Figueiredo. That was the lightest version of Davis and Figueiredo, lighter man skill. I believe that was the toughest version of Davis and Figueiredo that we had seen, but that's just my opinion. And so for Raul Rosas Jr., whose shots, whose takedowns don't look the best, his striking just isn't really crisp. Rob Font has decent takedown defense, although he does get taken down quite a bit in some of his fights. But if Raul Rosas Jr. is planning to go out there and do what he did to Rob Font that he did against like fucking Terrence Mitchell, just drop him in the first and finish him, like that's not gonna happen. Rob Font has only been dropped a handful of times in his career. In his UFC career, he's only been dropped in 2 separate fights, and those 2 fights were right next to each other. So you have to believe that there was something going on with his diet, his weight cutting. Something was there, as in those 2 fights. Against Jose Aldo and Chito Vera. Chito Vera, he got dropped 3 times, and I think against Jose Aldo, he got dropped twice. I don't think there's. I think that goes to show that there was something within that little time gap period that was wrong with his weight cut. But ever since then, he's kind of had an ironclad chin. And his entire career, he's had an ironclad chin. He's never been knocked down. He's only been submitted once. He has 7 losses by decision. And I think if this fight goes to that distance, I don't think Raul Rosas would be able to capitalize on much. I think Rob Font is more than capable of handling himself. He's able to grapple top 5 contenders, former champions, and not get submitted. I think a Raul Rosas Jr. who's nearly getting submitted twice in the third against Vince fucking Morales. I think he has his work cut out for him. But I broke down some stuff. Oh shit! I forgot this was a slide. I should have had you guys been looking at this entire time. But like I said, my main event for September 13th, personally, don't give a fuck about Canelo Crawford. Don't give a fuck about Gene Silva, fucking Diego Lopez. Dude, this is my main event, bro. Overall, Rob Font's 22-8 in his entire career. Raul Rosas Jr. is 11-1. Wins, Rob Font has 9 KOs, 4 submission wins, 9 decision wins, 1 submission loss, 7 decision losses. Raul Rosas Jr. on the opposite end, 2 KO wins, 6 submission wins, 3 decision wins, 0 KO losses, 0 submission losses, 1 decision loss to Christian Rodriguez, the infamous prospect killer. I genuinely, I just have such a hard time wrapping my head around why they would actually make this fight. It's so ludicrous in my opinion. It's just it's genuinely here. Like I have the shit right here. Here is the bantamweight division. Rob Font is number 9 right there, as you can see. Ayman Zahabi, who's fighting Chito Vera soon. Henry Cejudo is right there. Vinicius Oliveira is right there. Marcus McGee is right there. Kyler Phillips is right there. Montel Jackson is right there. Bar Kyler Phillips, who do you actually think Raul Rosas can beat in this top 10? Genuinely. No bias aside, just genuinely looking at this from an unbiased perspective, what one of these top 15 guys can Raul Rosas Jr. beat? He doesn't beat Montel Jackson, I'll tell you that much. Maybe he has a chance of taking him down before Montel Jackson can get his hands off. But I think once Montel Jackson sees those shots coming, I don't think Raul Rosas Jr. sets up those shots very well. I think Montel Jackson stuffs back up in the center of the ring, quick 1-2 down the pipe, rocks Jr. bad. Kyler Phillips, I couldn't see him giving it up. Marcus McGee, I think he rips nasty body shots to Raul Rosas Jr. up against the fence. I think he finishes him. Vinicius Oliveira, I think he kind of does the same thing, maybe a flying knee up the middle as Raul Rosas Jr. shooting in for a takedown, flatline KOs him. Henry Cejudo, I could see Henry Cejudo putting on a wrestling masterclass, out wrestling Raul Rosas with ease. Ayman Zahabi, maybe Ayman Zahabi gives it up. I could see maybe Raul Rosas Jr. beating an Ayman Zahabi, but he looked fairly decent against Jose Aldo. He was able to put him up against the fence at times. Did get fucking soccer kicked, but bar like 2 fighters from this, I think they really just saw Rob Font, the oldest active bantamweight, and said, well, here's our one and only shot. But little do they know this is going to completely backfire on them. But I got a little stylistic breakdown of Raul Rosas Jr. right here. In my opinion, he's a very the most brutal way to break down his fighting style is a sloppy, high pressure grappler. Excuse me. And what I mean by sloppy, he's just very active, but he looks confused in what he's doing. He looks kind of like he doesn't know what he's gonna do next. He'll like throw a 1-2, he'll throw a high kick, and then he'll throw like a low kick, and then he'll throw another low kick, and then off of that he'll extend his right hand so far from his body, leaving himself open to counters, which Vince Morales did capitalize on. He was kind of slapping Rosas' head back at times. Like I said, the high kicks, teep. He has actually a pretty decent teep in my opinion. But again, his competition is fairly shit. Just wicked and wild setups for unorthodox things that it doesn't even look like he knows exactly what he's gonna do next. And he always kind of shoots in the second exchange. He'll like go in and he'll do that confusing fucking sell. Like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing out here, right? I'm gonna just throw some shit. He'll just throw some bullshit. He'll exit. And then when he goes back in again, he'll lead. He'll lead with maybe a low kick and then he'll shoot. It's always after the it's always on the second exchange. It's like a 1-2. It's like after the jab, you know that right hand's coming. After that first exchange, when that second exchange it begins, you know that takedown's gonna come. I think he's fairly simple to read. He will wet blanket and has wet blanket lower level competition. Like I said, Vince Morales, he kind of wet blanketed him. Yeah, fuck, how do you say it? Ariochi Jiliang? Some shit like that? Some bullshit like that. He does have a tendency to just wet blanket these guys, and it's never even that impressive. He kind of just Hamzat Chimaev maxes against like how Hamzat Chimaev did against DDP. But I mean, he does have some good finishes against Ricky Turcios and stuff. I think that's a fairly decent win. I believe Ricky Turcios is like 2-2 in the UFC. So I mean, it's not the best opponent, but also not the worst opponent. I do think Ricky Turcios is better than what his resume shows or leads to. Let me mute my phone real quick. I do think he's better than what his record leads to. So that's a pretty underrated. Whoa. Hold on, guys. I just got something real quick. Crazy. All right. He's a pretty weak-framed fighter. Even it's very surprising considering that he always looks so fucking jacked when he's standing next to fighters. He's low-key a picture mogger. He's like he literally looks fucking ginormous in pictures, but in person against Vince Morales and these guys, he never looks that big. He never looks that imposing. He looks pretty anemic out there. If I'm really being honest, his shots don't look that powerful. His controlling doesn't look that dominant. Not as dominant as a Gene Matsumoto, I'll tell you that much. And his opponent's record, dude, I have it right there, 13-24. He has some of the most padded opponents on his side. His one good fighter that he faced was Christian Rodriguez. And honestly, even though Christian Rodriguez did way above the weight limit, I believe he did, it was honestly, that fight was like 4 fights ago. It's kind of so long ago that's kind of hard to remember. But I remember Raul Rosas Jr. doing well, and he kind of did just get out grappled. I just feel like if you're not being extremely dominant against these lower level fighters, these lower level competition, that once you get to a Rob Font who only gets controlled by the fucking Corey Sandhagens and Davidson Figueiredos, once you get to that level of opponent, that controlling and that those takedowns and those submission attempts are gonna come a lot harder than how they have come. This is not a Jay pairing that this is not a Jay pairing and a fucking Terrence Mitchell that you're gonna finish out here in the first round. This is Rob Font, a staple of the UFC bantamweight division, who has been a staple for countless years. And Rob Font, he himself, he's a high level output boxer, extremely high output. He's almost like a bantamweight kind of Max Holloway in a way, where he does just like unrelenting shots. I believe he threw like upwards to like 300, 250 strikes against Cheeto Vera when they fought, I believe in 2020. But even since then, he's been fairly good. The only time he hasn't really had high output was against that fight against Corey Sandhagen, where he did just get constantly grapple fucked, and you can't really blame him for that. He took it on short notice. Corey Sandhagen was training to go up against Umar Nurmagomedov. Umar Nurmagomedov pulled out. Rob Font steps on extremely short notice, and he kind of just gets wrestled fucked. I've forgotten what stadium they were in. I want to say Seattle, but I'm not too sure. Rob Font is extremely hard to knock down. As I said earlier, he's only been knocked down a handful of times. I want to say 5 times. 3 against Cheeto, 2 against Jose Aldo, dropping both of those fights. But he has nasty submissions from the bottom. You've seen in the Jun Matsumoto fight, he was threatening guillotines, he was threatening Kimuras, omoplatas. He was just constantly throwing out submissions from the bottom, which is extremely impressive. And from a stale fighter like Raul Rosas Jr., I don't think he's going to deal with that well. He kind of does have a tendency to just stalemate on the top position. He's a tricksy trickster, man. He's got a few tricks up his sleeves, man. He's a crafty bet. He's been in the game for fucking probably a decade at this point. He'd be flicking that jab out there. Rob Font is known to have the best jab in the game, man, and you can't really blame him. He knocked out fucking what's that dude's name? I forgot what that dude's name, but y'all know what I'm talking about. He absolutely hit that devastating uppercut on that kid, put him out, finished him, and he has really underrated, really extremely underrated power and extremely underrated strength of competition. You look at the fighters that Rob Font has faced, you will be genuinely surprised to how good some of these names are. It's very impressive that he's still positive in his record in the UFC. You would think that he would be almost like a 50-50 fighter, but I believe he's 12-7 in the UFC. 12-7? I want to say he's 12-7, or he's 12-8 maybe. I don't remember. But underrated, a crafty vet in the game who's been here for a while. Nasty submissions from the bottom, or at least submission attempts. He only has 4 submissions in his career, but the threat of them being there is enough to discourage kind of a stalemating Raul Rosas Jr. from being on top. Now the outcome. You guys have heard me glaze this entire time. You guys know who the fuck I'm going with. I'm going Rob Font by KO or decision. Now, when I mean I can genuinely see Rob Font catching this kid in the early first round and almost putting him away, I really can. Rob Rosas Jr. approaches fight so sloppy with the stand up. Sometimes it's wicked. It's wicked, but then it's not wicked considering his competition, how nobody has put him away yet. Because sometimes when he's just coming in, he's so open to counters. He's so open just to just a left hand, bro. Genuinely, you look at some of the exchanges that this guy has. I could see Rob Font slipping his head on the inside, corking a nasty right hand on the chin of Raul Rosas Jr., putting him down, following up with some nasty ground and pound shots. I think Rob Font can get him. I think Rob Font can get him in the early rounds. I'm not banking on it. I'm banking on Rob Font maybe dropping him once, winning a round decisively, and then having probably a round where he gets controlled a little bit, has some submission attempts from the bottom. Maybe the judges give it to Raul Rosas Jr., and then the other round is just Rob Font has picked up on his tendencies to shoot after every other exchange, stuffs him, doesn't go up against the fence, chucks him off, and just put hands on him, really just put fucking hands on him, belt to ass. Raul Rosas Jr. is, in my opinion, is just too inexperienced. He's not that much of a threat on top. He has no pop. He's super easy to read, extremely stationary on top, will only wet blanket. And while he's wet blanketing, I could see Rob Font at least racking up 2 to 3 submission attempts, decent submission attempts from the bottom. So that's who I think will win this matchup between Rob Font, number 9 in the world, and Raul Rosas Jr., who's currently unranked on a 4-fight win streak against lower level competition. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you made it to the end, please leave a like. Subscribe if you're new. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Send this to Rob Font if you can. Rob Font, if you're watching this, man, we love you. We're praying for the best. Hey, brother. Puerto Rican power, brother. Puerto Rican power. Rooting for you, bro, to the day that I die. If there's no Rob Font fans left in this world, I must be dead, because I will always be here for you, brother. Good luck on your fight. Wishing you the best. Thank you all for watching. Video coming out tomorrow about this weekend's card. Thank you all very much. Follow my Instagram and my Twitter. Doses.